Welcome. I better declare my bias from the start. I love Uncharted. They're some of my favourite games of all time. I love anything Indiana Jones-esque. I'm a lifelong Tomb Raider fan, so Dude Raider, as it's been affectionately nicknamed, is perfect for me. And I adore the games. They are some of my most replayed games of all time. And yes, I did go and spend £3 on eBay for this replica ring just for this video, because why not? You're worth £3 to me, you lot. That's got to be worth pressing the like button for, surely. Fair warning, this video will contain some minor spoilers. I'm not going to get into the main plot of the game and spoil it all for you, but I'm going to have to mention a couple of locations and characters at least, otherwise it's not going to make sense what I'm saying. So you've been warned. Spoiler alert is in effect. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End is, as of course the title says, the ending story of Nathan Drake. Now many might have thought that Uncharted 3 was a really good ending, but fear not, they did this perfectly and it doesn't impact on that in a negative way at all. And you can still go back and enjoy Uncharted 3 and 2 and 1. They're all brilliant. The Nathan Drake collection is my personal recommendation to play them because you get a remastered version of them, especially number 1. When it came out in 2016, Uncharted 4 was a revelation. It was highly anticipated. It was the first game that Naughty Dog had made specifically for the PlayStation 4, and boy, it did not disappoint, did it? It sold over 15 million copies, is regularly, even today, talked about as being one of the greatest games of all time, and has really cemented Uncharted into video game history as one of the great franchises. But of course that was 7 years ago. So how does it hold up today? But I digress. Well, first of all, visually, perfectly. It looked and still looks absolutely stunning. From your wide open shots of your landscapes, your cinematic moments, your small details, your character models, even your shooting mechanics and the fight sequences. It's just superb. And I think this can hold up to any PlayStation 5 game still out there, despite the fact it's a generation older. At least at the making of this video. It looks brilliant. But it's not all about the looks, is it? I mean, you might expect that from a Naughty Dog game, and certainly from an Uncharted game. What about the gameplay? Is it still as good as you remember? Oh yeah! Let's face it, Uncharted's always been a series that's been good. It's always been in the upper echelon of game quality. This is the best one yet. It absolutely smoothly sails through every bit of action. You start off, as is customary with the Uncharted games, it did it previously, in the middle of an action sequence. You're in a small powerboat racing towards an island. There are enemies coming at you from behind, from the left, from the right, in powerboats trying to stop you. You've just got to get through them and see if you can take a few out along the way. Once that part is done, we of course then go to the start of the story. And what a story. First little spoiler here. We're searching for pirate treasure. How cool is that? It begins where we left Nathan Drake and Elena, where they have actually settled into a domestic life. Nathan has a good job, they've got a nice little house. Everything seems to be domestic bliss. We go for a bit of a day with Nathan, follow it through to the house, where we find ourselves in a nice office attic room, and there's so many Easter eggs there from his previous adventures. For fans of the series, you can spend a lot of time looking around there, just trying to spot the Easter eggs. So then we go down and enjoy the sight of a bit of domestic bliss between the two, and even get to play some of the original Crash Bandicoot game. And whilst I've not done this myself, I did check on the internet, and apparently it is a full version of the game, so you can play through it right to the end. That's what I'm told anyway by the internet. Let me know if I'm wrong about that in the comments. So what could pluck our intrepid hero from this domesticated bliss? Well, that's the introduction of a new character called Sam Drake, Nathan's brother. I know, conveniently, he's not been mentioned on any of the previous adventures. They do give you a backstory as to where he's been and what happened to him, to justify why we've not heard of this chap before, when you'd imagine he's fairly integral to Nathan's life. Look, there's a bit of artistic licence here. Does it feel a little bit shoehorned in? Well, maybe a tad, but come on, they're making a fantastic story and they're introducing a new character the best way they can. Let them off. Because he's a good character, and more importantly, he persuades Nathan to go on yet another treasure hunt. But of course, the two of them might struggle on their own. So we get the reintroduction of one of my favourite characters from this game series. Sully's back! And he's wearing a loud shirt, he's got a plane, and he's got a big fat cigar. What more could you ask for? I was really chuffed to see Sully come back. And I know I'm getting distracted here, but I'd love to see a game where he was the star. Maybe we could see how he became a treasure hunter, for example. But I digress. As is customary in an Uncharted game, this is a globe-trotting adventure. So you go from the cold and windy highlands of Scotland to a posh party, to the plains of Africa, tropical islands, and so much more. Each location is handled beautifully, the art is fantastic, the graphics, as I've already said, are stupendous. You can't beat it, it looks great, and you really do get that adventuring feeling. And I like that, I like the globe-trotting, I don't want the same environments all the time. And each environment and each location does have its own little quirks with the puzzles, because yes, there's puzzles are back, as they have been previously. I think the difficulty level of these puzzles is handled really, really well. They don't instantly appear completely unchallenging, don't make you think, but they're definitely not difficult, so you're not going to get stuck on them and it's not going to spoil your enjoyment of the game because you're at the same stage for too long. It's just right. And even when you've played through the game numerous times like I have, unless you've got a much better memory than me, they'll still make you think, at least just a little bit. The hardest puzzle I found, how to put this without a spoiler, it involves paintings of pirates. If you've played the game, you'll probably get where I mean from and what puzzle I mean from that one. That stumped me just a little bit because I found it a little bit difficult to find what I needed to. But I always get there whenever I play it through, and quite honestly, I've played the game so many times now I can actually remember the solution. But still, great game, puzzles are good fun. And there is, of course, a huge amount of combat. This game is a little bit longer than its predecessors. I think it clocks in around 15-16 hours, depending how much you want to go into each environment searching for trophies and things. I don't mind that. I think that's a good length of game for a narrative-heavy adventure. That works well for me. I've got no complaints there at all. The combat is great. It's very much built upon what you're used to. So you've got the gunfights with the melee combat. The animations are the smoothest they've ever been. The gunfighting is the smoothest and best it's ever been. It actually feels like it's got a bit of weight to it whenever you shoot somebody. It just works great. Some may say there's a bit too much combat. I say never enough. It's too much fun not to want more of. And they do even throw in a bit of an open world aspect. Open zone, I think, would be a better description. When you're in Africa, you're at the wheel of a jeep. And by the way, the driving animations, we're going through the mud and everything, superb. And you get to go around this area, stopping pretty much whenever you want to explore what you see. And if you want to find all the trophies or the artifacts, whatever they call them, I can't quite remember, you will need to explore throughout. And it's good fun, it's great fun actually. Because this is the first Uncharted game that had a zone which wasn't completely linear. And in this open world bit, you do of course find parts relevant to the story and some good combat physics as well, including where you can sneak up on the bad guys. Now that's something you don't get to do so much in the other games, but you can actually take out an entire area of enemies stealth-like if you so wish, or you've got the patience for it. So we've got the globe trotting and the combat and the puzzles and the beautiful graphics. What's left? Well, of course, platforming. It's a big part of the games, has been from day one, and yet again, this is done absolutely brilliantly and improved upon from the previous games. The main difference you will find is you've got a grappling hook, so you can swing Indiana Jones style from various places. I love that, and to me it pays homage to the inspiration, which has got to be Indiana Jones, or at least Tomb Raider, which was inspired itself by Indiana Jones. It just works well. It adds an extra dimension to the climbing around, which makes it that little bit more entertaining. It gives you a different way to traverse your environment, and yes, you can use it in the firefights as well. You can swing from a ledge over a pit whilst shooting the baddies. Now that's cool. It just adds something to it. And you can also get later in the game a spigot. It's basically like a big chisel, but you hammer into the rock and then you can pull yourself up on. It works. Whether it be traversing the environment, taking out the bad guys, watching the story, getting to know the characters, puzzle solving, they couldn't have done better with this game. They just refined everything to perfection. And they ended Nathan Drake's story in a really classy way, in a way that I, as a fan of the series, was happy with, and I hope that you fans of this series were, or will be if you haven't played the game yet, happy with too. It's superb. And yes, they did make a DLC afterwards. Well, I say DLC, it's classed as that, as a standalone expansion, but I personally think it's got every right to be called its own game. Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, starring Chloe Fraser, who we've met in previous games, and Nadine Ross, who you meet in Uncharted 4. I enjoyed that game just as much as I've enjoyed any other Uncharted game, although Uncharted 4 is still my favourite, and I don't see any reason why the series couldn't continue with those two characters. Or, let's have a Sully game, where we see how he became this fantastic, yet not always successful treasure hunter that he is in the Nathan Drake games. There's so much they can do with this series, they really need to bring it back. Every time you search on the internet, you'll see that if you search hard enough, there are rumours of them developing another game, and the fact they can't just let this IP die because it's too popular and makes too much money. But it's been a long time since they've even officially mentioned a new Uncharted game, and we need it to carry on. We need this franchise to continue to live on for us all, in any other format except the horrendous film. Look, I like Tom Holland as much as the next guy. He's my favourite Spider-Man. He's got more talent in his little finger than I'll ever have. But he was the wrong choice to play Drake. So wrong. It should have been Nathan Fillion. And if you don't believe me, search Nathan Fillion Uncharted. You'll see a 15-minute fan film which he made where he plays Drake. And trust me, that 15-minute fan film, he is more convincing and better suited to playing Nathan Drake than for the entire Tom Holland fiasco. Rant over. But what do you think? Are you a fan of Uncharted like me? Do you prefer Tomb Raider to Uncharted? That's always a good question to ask, because I love them both. I'm not sure which I'd choose if I had to. And do you think they should carry it on, or just leave the series where it is now? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I will respond as well, of course. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Ta-da!